So, hello, everybody. It is Friday, and that means it's time to talk about how you can learn everything you need to know to write, publish, and promote a great book. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, co-founder of Two Sisters Writing and Publishing, and I go live every Friday with our superstar author, Joanie Lindenmeyer, to talk about how you can become a published author and write a book that is a powerful influence on the world. Joni, welcome.
Hi, Elizabeth. Good to see you. Good
You
to see
too.
you.
You too.
Yes,
Well, you have an amazing idea for our talk today. Can you share what that is?
absolutely. Improve your writing skills. That's what it's about. Their improvement, the key words, improve and skills.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Yes,
So, we are today going to talk about three ways that you can improve your writing skills. And are you ready to dive in, Joni?
I am. Can I tell you where it triggered from?
Yes.
Okay. Yesterday, I was so blessed and honored to visit College of the Redwoods in Crescent City, California. And with Professor Karen Lynn, I was able to visit the two classes and give them my author tips on how my books came to be in terms of the actual writing. And I just kept telling everybody their skills, just like you learn to dribble a basketball or you learn to bake a cake or what your
Yeah.
skills are involved and you can get better and better and better. So I have one prop to kick our day off.
Okay.
Actually, I have two props. The
Okay.
first one is the original Nun Better book.
Oh my
So
gosh.
everybody,
Wow.
this is what it started out as, a mess. It was a
Oh,
mess, but yet it had the heart and the guts. So
Joni,
that's
for
the original.
those who are listening, can you just describe what you're doing? What are you holding up? What does it look like? Thank you.
It's the number one tip, everybody. And I'm still learning it. Coach Elizabeth has told me, don't just tell the story, describe it. So I'm looking at, and you can visualize it. It's a wired binder, a college ruled binder that's green, and it's a mess. It's crinkled, and it's got writing on the front. It says Joni and Carol's Our Book, our life stories, sermons, witnesses, keynotes, just living with Jesus. And 40 years, 2021 was when we started to jot down some ideas. So you open up the first page, and in it, it says, listen to your heart, follow our calls. And then it starts to list some of our stories that we would put in this book that we thought at that time was just a dream, just a dream. It's all handwritten notes. There is nothing fancy. It is actually lines and pearls and marks, crosses things off. And I'm trying to describe it, Elizabeth. You're the pro at describing. What would you say? How would you describe this?
You nailed it. You already described it beautifully. You did a great job.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. So, whatever your skills are, you can improve. That's the whole message. You can improve on your
Yes,
skills.
I love it.
Yes.
So, of course, Joni and I are so in sync creatively. She came up with this topic today, and I finished a manuscript evaluation today, where that's the ultimate way to get improvement. You write your book and then you send it to me when I'm a publisher, editor, book coach, and author myself. So I did this manuscript evaluation where a lady finished her book. It's brilliant, her memoir, and I went in and marked it up and added all kinds of notes on how to improve here with transitions and this story and dialogue and details and everything. And then I wrote a 5-page editorial letter explaining all the things that are excellent and things that can be improved. And so now it's a literal lesson from their book, which, when you do it with someone's book, it's personal. It's not just a hypothetical lesson, it's their storytelling. They were already in it. So now they can improve it. And it's really an honor to be able to do that because it takes trust. So when you want to get an evaluation on your writing, that's tip number one. Use a professional who's objective because if you send it to friends and family, sometimes there can be frenemies, which is friends who are jealous and don't want you to succeed. So they might steer you wrong, give you bad advice, or criticize. Family members have a vested interest in keeping you in a certain space. And if they see the infinite potential of you being an author and traveling and speaking and being, they might not like that. They want to control. Some family members like to control. So trust, decide who you share your work with based on how objective they can be and people who are supportive of you. So getting a manuscript evaluation after you've written your book is one way I highly recommend that you improve your work. Joni, do you have another one? What's number two?
Well, related to that one, that's sort of like my number one. It's like find a coach.
Right,
Find a
right.
coach. And then with that, to be open to what they're teaching you and showing you. That's the key to me. You have to be open and to trust in that coach that
Mhm.
will lead you the right way. So that sort
And
of dovetails off of your second one, your first one.
yeah.
Okay.
And
My number one tip that I learned from Elizabeth Atkins, Coach Elizabeth is what I call you, Coach Elizabeth, is the use of in almost every sentence and every paragraph and every page to use words that describe the five senses. And number six sense, according to Coach Elizabeth's guruism, is intuition. So if you say the five senses, of course, we have touch and hearing and smell and sight and taste. So to make sure that somehow you have in your sentence and your paragraphs words that use those five senses. So an
mhm.
example would be, and this is what I learned so much from you, Elizabeth, was um, I made fajitas today. That's telling a story. But as you would always say, what does it smell like? Oh, the fajitas just aromatically filled the room, caused me absolutely an orgasm. I don't know what you're going to say, but to describe with those five senses. And I love the intuition because each of us has our own intuition that is a part of who we are and how you can bring that out. So that
Yeah,
was my number one tip from Coach
yeah.
Elizabeth.
Oh, that was beautifully said, Joni. Thank you. So the reason we want to write with our six senses is because it makes the reader feel like they're in the scene. And think about when your friend says, "Oh, I went to a new restaurant. It was great." Well, what was great about it? It was just great. No, that's so boring. If you tell me it's a great restaurant, I want to hear, what did it smell like? What did it taste like? What did it look like? What did it sound like? The music playing, the live piano player, whatever. I want you to take me there. And the way you take me there is helping me experience the sensory extravaganza of being there. So that was a great one, Joni. Do you have a number
Good.
three or do you want me to share number three?
You please go. You please go.
So number three is something that I learned as a journalism, as a newspaper reporter, and that's to take constructive criticism. And when I would send my article to my editor at the newspaper, I would be open to their constructive criticism. It's not personal. It's how can I make this better? And I trust this expert editor that's going to share their opinion in newspapers and how to write the best story for readers. They're not attacking me. They're not saying I'm a bad writer. They're showing me how I can learn. So as an author, take constructive criticism from whomever you work with, whether it's a coach, an editor, someone doing a manuscript evaluation, and just sort of thicken your skin and understand it's not personal. It's about the craft and helping you. But if a person gets defensive or says, well, I just like to do it that way, okay, then don't take the advice from the expert and leave it as is and let the readers decide, which might not be positive. So and in fact, today in the manuscript evaluation editorial letter I wrote, love it or leave it. Everything I said. If they don't like what I'm saying, they don't have to include it in their book. But I'm sharing my experience of 60 books that make people better writers. So what are your thoughts on that, Joni?
I think that's awesome. And I like the way you said thick skin. It's not anything personal. And I know in my athletic days, it was the same thing when a coach would advise me to change what I'm doing or how I'm doing stuff, not to take it personal and to try. And that's the way I looked at it. Try and do what they tell you and then see if it works for you. Yeah, and I love it or leave it. Oh man. And you're so open-minded that way, and you're so thick-skinned. Oh my gosh, are you thick-skinned? I don't
Oh,
think anything hassles and rattles you. Oh my gollies.
well, so my first manuscript that was my first novel with my editor, Natalia Aponte at St. Martin's Press. This was back before the internet where everything was digital, but she would send me back my physical manuscript in one of those Kinko's boxes,
Yes.
and it would have markups all over the margins, red X's, take this out. And I at first was like, oh my goodness. But then I was like, okay, she's a professional book editor in New York City. I'm going to learn from this experience.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna just really toughen up and not be offended or think I'm a bad writer or anything like that. I was like, wow, look, she took time to mark up all this stuff, give me guidance. She told me books to read. She said, change your story structure this way, and it became a bestseller. All three of my novels, my first novels, became bestsellers. And I
You
credit
were
her
three
with,
for three. You were
yeah,
three
yeah.
for three.
Thank you. So I credit her guidance for helping me become a better writer and therefore better publisher, better book coach, better editor, and better manuscript evaluator. Yeah.
Oh, very well said. Very well said.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. And always learning things from you. That's another thing about a coach. You just keep that parachute open, keep that mind open. And that's what you were talking about. Be
Mhm.
open to that. Wow. Cool. Okay. Am I on number two or number three?
We just did number three, but if you want a bonus number four, let's do it.
I've got a list here.
Okay.
Okay. My next one is, and I really learned this one from you. Words that end in ly can be replaced with words that end in ed. So I
Nice.
go lie ed. That's how I remember it. Lyed, lie
Oh,
ed. Example would be I walked slowly into the garden. I sauntered into the garden. So
nice.
instead of ly ending, use an ed.
I
Would you
love that.
add to that, please, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so ly words are adverbs. Those are an extra word that describes the verb. And if you find yourself using an ly word, an adverb, it means, I mean, it's not wrong, but if you want it to be better, tighter, more energetic writing, more engaging to the reader, use a better verb. So you use the perfect one that I always say in coaching and walked slowly. Replace it with sauntered. Sauntered is, first of all, a great word. It's not a word that you hear or read all the time. So for the reader, it gives some originality. It enhances the energy of the writing. So they're reading and they're like, oh, well, that's a good. And they have a very clear visual of what does sauntered mean. And it just shows, it kind of lets you flex as a creative writer too.
There you go. And speaking of that, yesterday the students at College of the Redwoods said, well, give me another example, Joni. I said, okay, he ran quickly. And I said, I don't use the word quickly. I use hauled buns.
That's really fun.
Like, okay, you got the ED in there and you added the creative Joni pizzazz to it. So
Yeah, I
that
love it.
that worked as an example. That worked as an
So
example.
walk, the word sprinted comes to mind.
Good
Sprinted.
one.
Yeah,
Good
that's
one. Good.
excellent. Really good. And so
Good.
if you're ever teaching, you can just challenge the students to come up with examples, of think of how you might use an ly word and then what better verb can you use. And I also highly recommend that people read On Writing by Stephen King. The first part of his book is his memoir, his life story, which I know he's a horror writer, but it's hilarious. He's a hilarious storyteller. And then the second part of the book is about writing. And he just has the funniest, most direct statements about how he hates ly adverbs. And they're just clunky and they just show amateur writing, which is, again, it's not wrong, but this is about today talking about how to improve your writing, and that's one. Use really great verbs.
Great, great. Yeah, and that reminds me, I pulled out of my hat yesterday that words matter. So I did an activity with the students, and if you're out there right now and you have a pen and paper, or you have your phone or something to write with, here's what we did for an activity. I had them pair up with somebody, and what they did was ask the person what their name was, because then we tied that into the LGBTQ and what dead names were. So we sort of tied that into the whole conversation. But here's the key. So you write out their name, like for Elizabeth, it would be E, and you go down Elizabeth. And then in your own silence, you create a word that is positive and affirming for each of those letters. So an E might be E for the first letter of Elizabeth would be electrifying. L might be lighthearted. I might be intelligent, but it got them to think about other words that are different. And it was a really, really fun activity. So right now, if you're sitting there with a loved one or a friend or by yourself, do your own name or do their name and then share it with them. It was really, really, really fun. It was so again,
Awesome.
words matter. Words matter.
That is awesome, Joni. Thank you for that. Wonderful. And did you
Yes.
have any others? Any tips?
Let's see what else. I have read, write, write, write. That's what you kept telling me all the time. Joanie, keep writing. Joanie, keep writing. Joanie, keep writing. It was like the old fish song of just keep on swimming, keep on swimming, keep
Mhm.
on writing. And
Yeah.
so that's I guess one key. And then you would say, well, read it out loud, Joanie. Read it out loud because you hear it differently. You see it differently when you read it out loud. Would you comment on that one, please, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so sometimes you can write something and have one meaning, but then when you read it out loud, you can notice that you have repetition. You might have words that have double meaning. Something just not might not be clear. And when you are more conversational in your writing, it makes people really, really enjoy it. It goes faster. It's easier to understand. They feel like they're talking to you. That's the main praise that my mother's book, The Triumph of Rosemary by Judge Marilyn E. Atkins, people said I felt like she was talking to me. And so they feel that she obviously wrote it in a very conversational manner. And they that really resonates with readers.
You bet. I would rather read something where I feel like I'm sitting at a table with them or on a walk with them and listening to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any more
Yeah.
tips?
I have one tip that's a silly tip. It's a silly tip, but it worked for me. So I got to turn around and grab my prop.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This was really important to me because I looked at my project of writing like a game, like I was a competition, like I was doing the best skills I could on the volleyball court or the pickleball court. So I have
Oh, your
my
gym
shoes.
shoes.
My
Yeah.
shoes. So
Oh,
they are my Nike shoes. I'm not advertising for Nike, but my pink laces, but they were my game uniform when I sat down to write.
oh,
And somehow
wow.
I just felt the vibes from my feet to my heart to my head that
Oh,
it was all in me to let it out. And
yeah.
so I don't know if it makes sense to anybody out there, but I had to dress the part, Elizabeth, when I sat at the computer, you know?
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I had to dress the part. Do you dress the part when you write?
No, I just need to be comfortable and I have the whole everything, the temperature of the room has to be right. It needs to be silent and still. Um, my energy has to be right. So there's other things, but my clothing just has to be comfortable.
Yes, yes. But I think that's the same thing because it puts you in the mindset, right? It puts you in
Right.
the attitude, it puts you in the place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Joni, this
Great.
was a brilliant topic. It's going to help all those aspiring writers out there right now. And I appreciate you so much. And because you took everything I shared as when I was coaching you to write None Better and you applied it. That's the thing.
Yes.
You applied it and you really did a great,
Thank
great
you.
job with all of it. You're welcome. And you continue to do that as we moved on to Joyously Free and also Healing Religious Hurts. So you
Yeah.
are such an example, a stellar example of all of these things. So all of you
Oh,
listening, I hope you can take away from this the importance of our 4 tips, or actually it was more than that, and apply it. And also, if you need any help, please contact me at twosisterswriting.com. And I'd be happy to work with you as your book coach or do a manuscript evaluation. If you finished your book publishing, so you can do that, twosisterswriting.com. And if you'd like to talk with Joanie, you can find her on Facebook at Joanie Lindenmeyer, as well as Instagram and TikTok. Please also leave us a comment here. We'd love to hear any questions. We go live every Friday. So we wish you the best. And Joanie, any final words?
I would love to hear if anybody else has some tips that work for them. So
Oh, nice.
please leave me a tip because I'm always open to other tips as well.
I
So
love it. I love it. That's beautiful. Well, Joni, I hope you have the best day. And all of you writers out there, we wish you happy reading and happy writing. Until next
you
week.
bet. Bye, everybody. Big hugs. Bye.